What are class modifiers in Dart 3? Let's deep dive into the world of Dart 3 class modifiers. Class modifiers control how a class or mixin can be used, either from within its own library or from outside of its library. Library is the place where the class is defined. A library in Dart is a collection of Dart code that can be imported into other Dart code. Modifier keywords come before a class or mixin declaration. The full set of modifiers that can appear before a class declaration include abstract, base, final, interface, sealed, and mixin. We mostly use classes outside of the library, so we will mainly cover that part only. To allow unrestricted permission to construct from any library, we use a class or mixin declaration without a modifier. Let's go to folder number 1, normal class. In a.dart file, we are creating a vehicle class with a method which is implemented with the provided code block. We can then instantiate or construct, extend, or inherit and implement vehicle class in b.dart file. For a class without modifier or a mixin without modifier, we can construct or instantiate new instances of a class, extend a class to create a new subtype, implement a class or mixin's interface, mix with a mixin or mixin class. Let's also see the difference between extend and implement keywords. Extend keyword is used for inheritance, where a subclass inherits properties and methods from a superclass. Subclasses can override methods of the superclass to provide custom implementations. Implement keyword is used for adopting an interface, where a class agrees to implement specific methods as defined by the interface. The class implementing an interface must provide the methods specified by the interface. To prove this, if we remove this overridden method in implemented class, then it gives an error because superclass method must be implemented. But if we remove this in extended class, then it gives no error because it is inheriting method from its base class. Next, let's go to folder number 2, abstract class. Abstract classes are used to define the behavior of a class that can be inherited by other classes. It doesn't require a full, concrete implementation of its entire interface. Abstract classes often have abstract methods. Abstract methods are without their body. In a.dart file, we are creating the same vehicle class and its abstract method without body and using abstract class modifier here. In b.dart file, here you can see we cannot construct abstract class, but we can extend and implement it. So, an abstract class can be extended and implemented from any library. Abstract classes cannot be constructed or instantiated from any library. Now we are going to folder number 3, base class. We can use base class to enforce inheritance of a class or mixin's implementation. In a.dart file, we are creating again vehicle class and its method with body and using base class modifier here. In b.dart file, here you can see we can construct and inherit a base class, but we cannot implement it. So, a base class disallows implementation outside of its own library. It allows implementation inside its library, but we can construct and inherit a base class from any library. You can also see that we are using base class modifiers to extend and implement. You must mark any class which implements or extends a base class as base, final, or sealed. Because base, final, or sealed cannot be implemented, and this prevents outside libraries from breaking the base class guarantee. Next, we are going to folder number 4, interface class. In a.dart file, we are using vehicle class and its method with body and using interface class modifier here. In b.dart file, here you can see we can construct and implement a base class, but we cannot inherit it. So an interface class disallows inheritance outside of its own library. It allows inheritance inside its library, but we can construct and implement from any library. For a pure interface, we can combine interface and abstract modifiers for an abstract interface class. In abstract class, we can implement and inherit, but cannot instantiate. In interface class, we can implement and instantiate, but cannot inherit. By combining these two class modifiers, we can have a pure interface through which we can only implement. Common thing between interface and abstract is what we can implement, so this becomes a pure interface. Let's move on to the next folder, which is number 5, final class. In a.dart file, we are using vehicle class and its method with body and using final class modifier here. In b.dart file, here you can see we can only construct a final class, but we cannot inherit or implement it. So the final class disallows both inheritance and implementation outside of its own library, but allows inside its library. But we can construct or instantiate it from any library. The final modifier uses the effects of base modifier, and therefore any of its subclasses must also be marked base, final, or sealed. Let's go to folder number 6, sealed class. Sealed classes are useful for representing a finite set of possible states or types. Then, what is the difference between final and sealed? Sealed class is useful for exhaustiveness checking. If you want the freedom to add new subtypes in a non-breaking or non-exhaustive way, then it's better to mark the supertype using final instead of sealed. In a.dart file, we are defining a sealed vehicle class with its subtypes car, truck, and bicycle. Next, we are going to create a getVehicleSound method which accepts a vehicle. Inside it, we are returning a string by using vehicle class and switch statement. If we do not write the bicycle case, then it says, the type vehicle is not exhaustively matched by the switch cases. This is exhaustiveness checking. In b.dart file, here you can see, we cannot construct, inherit, and implement a sealed class. But we can construct, extend, and implement its subclasses like you can see here. So, a sealed class can be inherited or implemented only inside of its own library. We cannot instantiate or construct sealed classes from any library, but its subclasses can be instantiated from any library. Let's go to folder number 7, Mixin. Mixin is a way to reuse a class code in multiple class hierarchies without using traditional inheritance. Because we cannot extend more than one class in traditional inheritance, let's create 2 Mixins, jumping and running along with their methods. Mixins themselves can't have extends or with clauses with them. Inside b.dart file, we are using with keyword to use a Mixin class with a class followed by one or more Mixin names. With keyword is used for Mixin class only. With keyword is used to enable code reuse through Mixins while avoiding some of the limitations of single inheritance. Because extend keyword doesn't support multiple inheritance in Dart. Here, jumping and running Mixins are mixed into the athlete class. This allows the athlete class to inherit the behavior defined in the Mixins without needing to build a deep inheritance hierarchy. Then if we create an object of athlete class, we can inherit all methods of Mixins, which are jumping and running. A Mixin class declaration defines a class that is usable as both a regular class and a Mixin, with same name and the same type. Any restrictions that apply to a class or a Mixin also apply to a Mixin class. Like Mixin can't have extends or with clauses, so neither can a Mixin class. We mostly use classes outside of the library, so let's create all classes here. And in the other file, here is the summary of all class modifiers outside of the library where the classes have been defined. And here is the summary of all class modifiers inside of the library where the classes have been defined. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. See you in the next video.